want to welcome everyone to CEAT Research's career panel. We have with us today four distinguished and successful career awardees. I'm going to ask each of them just to introduce themselves, tell their name, what year they started here at Oklahoma State University, and then the title of your award-winning proposal. Some chuckles there, right? And about all the hyphens and and then all the, how you fit half of your project description in your title. And we'll start all the way on my left with.
Okay. Yeah, hello everyone. My name is John Hu. I'm an assistant professor in the School of Electrical and Computer Engineering. So I started here in 2019. That was before COVID. My career title, proposal title was a Human AI Collaboration to Debug Analog Circuits.
That's perfect.
Thanks.
Wenmeng Tian. I'm an associate professor in Industrial Engineering and Management School, and I joined last year, August 2025. But I got my career earlier, 2022. The title, I'll try my best. Privacy Preserving Transfer Learning for the Accelerated Certification for Metal Additive Manufacturing.
Hi everyone, my name is Jie Jiang. I'm currently assistant professor in the School of Chemical Engineering at OSU. I joined in 2021. My career title was a bit long, so I was trying to, still thinking about it, but it has something to do with physics augmented, data-driven, digital twin for sustainable agriculture and irrigation control or something like that. Yes.
I'm Mary Foltz. I'm an assistant professor in the School of Civil and Environmental Engineering. I started in 2021 as well, and I have my title in my notes, so it's Cultivating Sustainable Agriculture and Education Through Transitions.
All right, very good. Appreciate that, and I think you win the award for project description in the title itself, because you were riffing a little bit, but that was very good. So I've got a few questions we'll go over, and I'll start randomly. But when you look back, what do you think made your career proposal fundable rather than just good? I'm going to ask each of you to answer, but in any order. Think about that. What made it fundable?
I'll start like this. So I think that I worked the longest on trying to make sure that it was all very integrated. It wasn't like a lot of times people are like, what was your research plan? What was your education plan? Mine was very tied together. Like each objective, you could say the components of it that could fall under each. And so I think that was really critical. And I'd been working on the topic like my whole career. So it was very much my career's proposal, which I think was good. And I put my heart into it. I've shared the proposal with other people, and they've said that it doesn't read like a traditional career proposal and that it has a lot of personal elements in it. And I think that that made it successful for me.
I guess I just want to echo what Mary said. I completely agree, and I think in addition to that, I guess my career proposal was also kind of looking ahead, 10 years, 20 years from now, my overarching goal, what I'm trying to achieve at OSU, and how does that translate to what I'm going to do for the next 5 years in the career project. So I think this connection, I actually have a graph, I have a figure that shows, okay, this is what I'm doing right now, all of the skill sets and tools and methodologies that I'm developing in my group, and then what I'm trying to achieve in the next 5 years in the career project, and then ultimately what's going to happen 20, 30 years from now. All the infrastructure, all the the centers, possibly centers, institutes, and all the research infrastructure that will be built at OSU. I think this kind of overarching landscape is really helpful.
Yeah, I totally agree with the two colleagues. They mentioned the integration of your own idea and also the infrastructure of the university and also the school can offer. I just want to add one to that is basically you need to be really excited about the idea that you are proposing. And I did not make a decision to submit my proposal until I have that idea in mind that I really feel like I need to put it down. And if I do not put it down, like this year, I may never win it in the next year because this is a very evolving and fast-growing domain. So yeah, I think the idea needs to be exciting, and usually at the first glance, your reviewer, if they can get excited, you can motivate them to feel, wow, this is really exciting idea. Then they will be less picky to smaller things, and I think that's very important to win the panel's heart or something like that.
Very good point. I have to say, try, if you failed once, failed twice like me, and try a third time to get lucky. Yeah, I mean, the third try seems to be, I don't know, sometimes when you keep trying, just don't give up after the first two trials.
Good. Dan, you hinted at this a little bit, and somewhat you did, John. But when did you decide to submit? When you did submit, was in hindsight was the timing right to do that? When do you submit? Right away? Wait? I mean, how do you decide the best timing?
Okay, so I mean, my first one was submitted somewhere in the middle of my assistant professorship. I wasn't sure whether it was a good right time. If I was the first time, maybe I should give it a try. So it was that kind of mentality. Now the second try was based on the revision of the feedback of the first one. And I treated it almost like a journal revision and tried to revise it, but that didn't go very well. Then I realized I only have one last try, so I kind of skipped until the very last year. So I'm not sure if that's a good strategy. To see how people actually work.
I started my tenure track job in 2017, so my career proposal was submitted in 2020, which is during the COVID time. Actually, that my major decision, like deal breaker, is basically I do have at that point I do have an idea that I feel like really excited. I think I need to put it down and get it submitted. And I was super lucky, if you guys remember, that year they got the deadline extended for 2 weeks or 3 weeks. That really helped me a lot. So I was really lucky. That I think that year they were expecting there were a lower submission rate that year. So I got an additional 2 weeks that really made my proposal actually possible. So that was my first submission, and I got a lot. Yeah, it was really different, I guess. Yeah.
You just want to talk about the timing.
We did the same timing.
Yeah, same timing. We started the same year. We submitted the same year.
Yeah, we talked about it that summer. We were like, oh yeah, you're working on it too.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. So I mean, I was lucky enough to get it in my first trial as well. So I think when you feel you're ready, then you should start giving it a try. But don't start too early because
Yes.
sometimes you may think you have a pretty good idea, but it may not actually be favorable in front of like a NSF panel. I think you should at least serve in the panel for one time and see how panel review looks like before you actually submit your NSF proposal to such a high quality or quote unquote prestigious program. Another thing I want to the reason why I think it's better to not start submitting too early is because for NSF career it's very important to recognize the integration between the research and education and some of the resources that the university offers. So when you are first in your tenure track, assistant professorship, first 1 or 2 years, you're still building your connections with the university, still getting familiarized with what are some of the resources that are available, who can I talk to, who can I collaborate with. So all these things will come together in the career proposal somehow. So it is very important to first know what is going on at this university before you actually put your ideas to fit that into the scope of this university's mission and resources.
And I guess the timing, you get the 3 tries, so like thinking ahead, when are you going up for tenure? Okay, back calculating, it's roughly around year 3 when you should be applying if you want to use the 3 tries. So that fed into my decision making. Also, my head told me in my annual review, you have to apply this year, and I've made it my point to do everything he says. So that little nudge helped.
Well, again, you brought up an important point regarding kind of thinking about evaluating sort of integration and how it fits into your overall goals, and also the goals of ARP, but also understanding kind of the lay of the land. Many assistant professors sometimes behave like hunters that shoot at anything that moves, and that doesn't necessarily yield the best strategy for something that you want to eat, right? And so we've been talking a little bit about, we'll call it strategy. Let's pivot somewhat and talk about some tactics. And anyone can answer this. Were there any resources that were helpful to you as you developed your proposal? Nuts and bolts.
My favorite thing is to look at past winners' proposals. So Pam sent me several from our university, and none of them were to the program that I applied to, and so I went to the NSF website and looked up past recent awardees within the program I plan to submit to, and then screened those for ones that were in a similar topic area. And then I cold emailed those people. I emailed 3 people and asked them if they'd be willing to share their resources, and 2 people said yes and 1 person said no, and I got 2 full proposals back to look at, and that was so helpful.
In my case, the number 1 resource that I kind of leverage is of course my colleagues in my department, and then also my colleagues outside of the department, in other universities. So I basically explained ideas to them. I actually gave seminars on these ideas here and there, and they kind of gave me feedback, and I kind of utilized that to judge or to evaluate how excited they are about the idea. And then I kind of use that to evaluate, okay, whether I should change my idea or I should, keep the idea. And my number 2 resource is definitely Pam. I remember I'm a deadline-driven person, so I usually start 2 weeks or 3 weeks before the deadline. And I was like rushing through. I didn't sleep much for the first, during that 2-3 week period. I was able to get a very rough draft, and I sent it to Pam, and she got back to me almost overnight or something like that, which is very impressive. And a lot of those comments are really, really helpful, so I really appreciate that.
I think at that time I got a book called something like a grant application workbook, something, and I have a colleague who doesn't like the book at all, so don't quote me on that. So that helped me a lot in developing my first few proposals of my own, that I can really get things down, instead of just sitting in front of my screen and don't know how to start or how to start typing. So that's really helpful for my first few proposals, including my career proposal. And then another thing that was really helpful was what Mary just mentioned about basically I get into the program and see what has been funded. First of all, I want to see if because advanced manufacturing is traditionally their majority are funding like mechanical engineering like people or aerospace engineering people. But I noticed there was like every year there was like only one or two IE people got funded, and I was really looking into what their expertise were and what they were focusing on. They're working on completely different processes, and but I can see some like distill some of their common practice in their idea and their abstract, and I was really lucky that I know a lot of them. I didn't get a gut to ask for their proposals, I need to be honest. But it was still very helpful because I know them in person, and so I know their style, I know their work. So that's something I learned in a more indirect way on how to develop my own proposal, but making sure I stay away from what they have already been funded, which is definitely they will not fund again in just 1 year or two. So that was really helpful. Yeah, I think that's the 2 points that I want to share.
Yeah, I think they've all made great comments. One thing I would add is that if you roughly know which directorate you're going to apply to, usually they hold a career workshop every summer. So I kind of listened to those one-day seminar on Zoom. It was really helpful. They will grab similar things like what we're doing here, even more in depth. I mean, the ones I have in mind is the computer, information and science and engineering science directorate. So I learned a lot just by attending that event. And it doesn't cost us anything.
Good. Okay, so I'm going to have 2 more questions. So those in the audience, you might think about the questions you would want to ask. And I've got some I can queue up later. Let's get real. How many of you are planning to submit this summer? At least one. Okay, good. So let's drill down very specifically. Did you have any specific tools or processes that you used to help you stay on track in order to get everything written on time? Way in the weeds.
Yeah.
What you do?
I'm a very organized, task-driven person, and I have a good friend that I work well with that is similarly task-driven and organized, and she and I happened to align our careers to where we were working on them at the same time, and so we made a plan in the beginning of the year and met every single week checking in on how we were doing for that. And some weeks were bad and we were like, I haven't thought about this at all. And then some weeks were great, and just having that accountability partner. We never read each other's or talked about our ideas. It was just purely check in and make sure that we're staying on track. And that was so helpful for me.
Anybody else on the processes used to stay on track?
I think what Mary said is the really good tool. My tool is the really bad one, which is basically the deadline itself, right? So I'm not gonna really talk too much about it.
Yeah, you're the one that said 3 weeks before.
Yeah.
We're a little bit more than 3 weeks out now.
Yeah, I think for proposal writing is slightly different from paper because we really have a very restrictive page limit. So we want to start, I mean, this is the same for all the proposals, but for career proposal, because this is your own thing, so you can, basically you can work on your own pace. You want to wait for the last 3 weeks, that's totally fine. You don't have colleagues who will be calling you and knocking on your door every day. So that, I think that's the nice thing about career. It's really something that you can plan for yourself. Whatever works best for you, I think that's the best strategy. For me, that because of the restricted page limit, that I will basically lay out each section how long I would like to write and try not to overwrite too much to waste time. So I have to think about what figures I want to incorporate, and those take space, obviously. And because we know that when reviewers were reading the proposal, they are really they want to see something that are more entertaining than a whole page of words. Yeah. So think about your figures, put up a little bit more time in your figures and time your space. So your writing part you don't necessarily need to write super long. Yeah, so that part will hopefully save you some time. Yeah, and keep track of how many days you left, I guess.
John, any process or tools?
I just want to give a shout out to Cam. I think Cam, you guys were doing something about for peer reviews, and our CEAT research set up internal deadlines. Okay, this is the time you need to give me a draft. This is the time. So I essentially literally follow that to be able to put everything together. So I don't know how you guys come up with the dates.
Good. Okay, we're gonna step back up to the higher level now as we transition to some of the audience questions. Mary, you alluded to it very directly in your opening remark. A career requires integration of research and education plans. How did you demonstrate they were integrated?
So,
Anybody? Yes.
I'll go ahead and start. I spent a very long time working on like an overarching figure, and it was my vision that the overarching figure would be able to tie all of the elements into one thing, and like if I couldn't make that work, then it wasn't integrated enough. So I spent longer on that figure probably than on writing the whole thing, because once I had that figure, it gave me a framework that like allowed me to get all of the writing together. And it was literally a Venn diagram with 3 circles for each of the objectives, and they all intersected. And so I could say, what is the overlap between 1 and 2, and 2 and 3, and 3 and 1, and all of them. And for me to visually place that made a lot of sense to me, and it hopefully resonated with the reviewers as well. But it made it very clear how everything was tied together.
In my case, I was, so the type of research that I do is computational, but it has a very strong tie with the local communities, the agriculture sector, and so it's a very natural thing to connect with what farmers are doing in their field. So what I proposed was actually a test bed that I got. So I'm collaborating with our field research service units at OSU, who has 19 research stations occupying about 14,000 acres of land in Oklahoma. So I'm basically asking for a 1-acre field in one of their research stations, where I will establish a so-called smart soil monitoring and irrigation control test bed, where I will actually deploy sensors, collect data, validate the model, and update the algorithms. And then also that test bed serves as a platform to reach out to local farming communities and students. So I've scheduled visits to bring them to see what is happening at the test bed, and to basically get a feel of how soil monitoring works, and how some of these methodologies could help in reducing the water consumption and improving the water use efficiency, things like that. So I think that that test bed is pretty interesting and innovative idea, and I really like that. And everything centers around this test bed. So I think it's a good way of connecting between research, education, and extension.
Something you can come and show.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So I was really lucky that my teaching assignment at the beginning was really relevant to what my research is really directly focused on. So unintentionally, I have been collecting material for my master, so on and so forth. So I have been suggested to do some of those material collection without knowing that they will be helpful for my career proposal. And actually, at the end of the day, they are all like integrated part about my educational goals that will be coming hand in hand with my research program. And also, this also shows that I already have experience in teaching, like also mentoring undergraduate students, doing outreach to high school kids. So those are all like also showing some established record that I have already have. So even though I didn't know that was like helpful for my career at that time, but when I look back, I think those are really helpful to basically, if you think about it, even when we do not get a career proposal, we still want to form the pipeline of our own academic career. Okay, so it may not be that capitalized NSF career, but we want to form the pipeline of our research, of the pipeline of our education, and also mentoring students. These are all the things we are supposed to do anyway. So I guess just try to think about how you will be, or what type of faculty that you will be in 5 or 10 years, and try to like approach to that manner for different dimensions. I think those will be really helpful, and then it will help you to prepare materials to put in your proposal.
Yeah, for this part, I need to thank Joey. I was at your this panel last year when you shared an example. So basically, I had my idea based on your experience. So in the end, I think if you have a hard time describing how your research and education is integrated in one sentence, probably you should rethink your idea. You know, when I look at the things I proposed the first time, the second time, or the one this time, I feel like different ideas, some ideas are generally more easy to be integrated in research and education. So pick those kind of ideas and propose. The other ideas are more suitable for other type of funding agencies. NSF Korea have this kind of strong flavor.
Very good. Okay. Well, I'd like to open it up to the floor and see if there are questions that the audience might have for Lisa Buchanan. So go ahead and say your name, your department, and
my name is CEAT. I'm in the second year of my tenure position. I am with EC Electrical Engineering. One of you mentioned that wait until you have the strong idea. So do we have to work towards that idea in the first 3 years and then submit something because we need some initial results to prove that idea? Or NSF career could be something apart from what you have been doing in your PhD or the first 3 years? That's my first question.
I think it's really helpful to have some preliminary study, or at least show some track record that you have done something similar that can basically show your reviewer, show the panel that you can be successful. You are the right person to fund. But it doesn't necessarily mean you need like 20 papers in that one area. Because sometimes a little bit too much prior study may also show that this part has already been well studied, and then why in the world do you want to spend another 500K? So there's a small balance in there, but I think as long as you can show some track record on this topic you propose, and also you have the facility and the capability to do what you propose, I guess that needs to be checked before you submit the proposal. And then after these two were checked, of course, the earlier the better. That's my personal two cents. Yeah.
And I guess expanding upon that a little bit, at least in my program, the type of preliminary results or the preliminary work that you have done to demonstrate your capability does not have to be journal articles. Mm-hmm. It could be conference papers, it could be given a presentation, it could be just a figure that you have run some simulations and you've got some results, and you just put it there to show that here's a preliminary study that shows that it might work. It's unpublished, it's not presented, but it's there. And so it could be a variety of different types of forms. So don't be restricted by saying, okay, I have to publish this in the journal before I can claim it is a preliminary study.
My preliminary results were from student theses and just from like the education part, it was just from like day-to-day stuff. None of it was published, but I had preliminary data on everything. Well, not everything. One of my proposed objectives was entirely new, and so that was like the potentially risky one, high risk, high reward, you know. But my objective 1 and 3 had preliminary data, but not too much, because if you have too much, they're going to be like, why should we keep funding this?
Ask several questions, if that's okay. First of all, I want to thank you, Chen, by the way. I am emergency manager. I want to thank you, the research office. The gentleman asked the question about the prior result support that support the NSF proposal. I learned that last year's NSF panel you organized, and because I learned from the 7 panelists last year, I really writing my proposal, and the review back this year was really good on our parts. So I think I learned a lot from the panelists from last year. So I think this is really meaningful activities, even though not many people attend today, but I hope they can. Really helpful. So because I last year and they give me feedback, there's I think I have some questions, especially from feedback from the reviewer. They really hit hard on my novelty in methodology. How do you define that novelty methodology, and how did you address that? How do you do that in your proposal?
You could have gotten unlucky, honestly. I don't know.
Oh, those guys got it the first time, so they have no experience. I went through the same situation, being rejected, coming back, all kind of criticism. And I guess my suggestion is that, do you really love your idea that much?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so you think you are doing the right thing?
Oh yeah, and the panelists said my idea is novel.
So was your previous one the first submission?
Yes.
Okay, that's understandable. The NSF, this is not official, I just feel that NSF has a very different criteria when it comes to first submission, second submission, and third submission. The first submission is really tough. So for those guys to get it the first time around, they must be top of I mean, I heard back from my first time after I submitted and rejected, the program manager actually talked to me, and they explained to me, he's a fellow Chinese American, he explained to me in details, but, well, you know, we really like your stuff, and here's where you ranked. And I said, well, ultimately you were not funded because it was your first try. You know, we tried to be tough on the first try. And
So they separated different tribes?
Yeah, they know it. Program manager know exactly you are the first try. And so when they rank everything, so when they decide who to fund, you know, that's no wonder whether you have great review or you don't get funded the first time.
But you know, the reviewer knows where
I'm not sure whether reviewers know, but the program manager knows.
I
So
could
the program
probably guess too, based on where you are in your.
the year, okay.
Yeah. So your first time is going to be the toughest. Now the second time is the tricky one. Do you love your idea so much you want to do a revision, or you want to scrap it out or start again? So I was like, I was at a point where I said, okay, do I submit or not submit? So I feel like the program manager was so encouraging, saying, oh, make sure you revise this one, submit it next year. I'll try to get it through the second time. And you know what? When I submitted the second time, he left the NSF. So, you know, so all that revision work just went into nowhere. And I have a new program manager, I have no idea, and it went to a completely different place, and I was like, so you are at that, again, in hindsight, you are at this exact moment where you have a great submission the first year, great review, but didn't get funded. So it's up to you to decide if you want to stick with it, try a second time, you might get a completely different program manager. Or have you talked to your program manager? You know, he or she will share with you your situation within the portfolio, and then what is the likelihood if he or she will stay with the program, how supportive the program manager is going to be with you for your specific case. That's really helpful for me.
I try not to fixate on particular reviewer comments unless it's like a recurring thing. So like if you I would sit down with other people in your field and say, hey, can you look at this? Can you look at these reviewer comments? Do you agree? Do you disagree? And get additional perspectives, because if it's just one particular reviewer that says one thing, then you just got unlucky potentially. And maybe that's not the one to worry about addressing. It's worry about addressing the ones that are consistently popping up. Like I had several people review my proposal, and if I got one-off comments from somebody that I disagreed with and I felt strongly about and no one else picked up on those, then I would keep what I felt strongly about rather than trying to appease everyone. Because you can't appease everyone. And it's more about what is you. I'm not going to try to be somebody else just to win. I'm going to be myself.
Yeah, I think in general the panel summary information is more helpful than the individual reviews. Because the panel summary, they will talk to each other and they will discuss and they will arrive on a consensus to put this together. And for individual reviews, it's basically each one of the reviewer's personal opinion. And they can write whatever they want. And it may not be agreed upon within the panel. So the panel summary would be more helpful, informative for revision per se. And also maybe talk to I agree with the other colleagues mentioned, and talk to the program director a little bit more and see. So basically what the program would like to fund in terms of fundamental knowledge development or fundamental knowledge discovery. Different programs are interested in different type of fundamental knowledge, and so that's maybe the difference in the novelty they are looking for. So similar idea can be submitted to potentially multiple different programs under CNMI, but different programs, they have different focus on what type of knowledge they would like to if they would like to grow or they would like to fund. So that can be something to ask or talk to the program director to get some names, I guess.
Or you get a previous proposal, like maybe
Yeah, if there's a way to get one, definitely I'll be helpful.
If you apply for the same program, I'm happy to share with whoever.
My second question is, they talk about one of my activities very high risk, and they talk about contingency plan. I mean, how did you write that in your proposal?
Usually, in my program at least, like the contingency plan does not have to be exhaustive. You just need to
Have it.
Yes, you just need to have it. You just need to demonstrate to the panelists that you have thought about potential risks and you have thought about how to mitigate that. And so, for example, if you have one task that you think, oh, this could be a risk, that could be also a risk, and there are many, many risks associated with it, you just need to pick one that you think is easier to address. And then you address it pretty well, because you don't have enough space to put a whole lot of contingency plan, right? So that's understandable. So usually reviewers are okay with that. But I'm not sure about the situation in other programs. So I think this is a good question to ask the program manager.
Yeah, and I similarly, I addressed some potential things that could go wrong and how they would be addressed, but I didn't do all of them, and I was like, oh, should I do this one or this one? And I went with the ones that I could explain the best. And actually the program director came back to me whenever it was recommended for funding and said, the reviewers had concerns about this particular thing. What is your contingency plan? And it wasn't one that I had space to write about. It was one that I thought about writing about, but I didn't. And I was like, ooh, I know the answer. And I responded via email to him, and he sent it to the reviewers, and they said that that answered their questions basically. So I was given a second chance, which I guess for that. So I think as long as you compelled them enough, I think someone mentioned this before, that if they like your idea, they like your energy, they like you as a person, they're going to be trying to help you succeed. Whereas if there's something that they dislike, then they're going to find every hole and be like, well, that's the reason why you're not getting it. And so sometimes you get lucky, sometimes you get unlucky in that way.
Yeah, it may also be relevant to if your tasks are like dependent on each other. If your task one have a risk that and your output of a task one will be the input of a task two, then they will have a concern. Because if the task one is not successful, then the whole 5-year project may get into some problematic state. Then that's kind of a big or important risk that you would really want to address in your proposal. Yeah, and I did have regular proposals that got rejected due to that they were not convinced that this task one can be successful. So yeah, that part maybe need a little bit more thinking and more consideration.
Yeah, please.
I had a question regarding
The name and department.
yeah, my name is Paritosh. I'm from industrial engineering. So I had a question regarding the research and education plan. How important is for the education to feed back into the research? Like the education plan that you propose, feeding back into the research that you proposed in the career award, the proposal.
I think it's program specific. I will say that because I considered submitting to 2 different programs and I got perspective insight from both, and the insight was that one of the programs cares a lot more about the education side and the integration, and if you have any deficiencies there, you're toast. But the other one, they care more about the research and having some, you need to still have the integration no matter what, but it was a lot stronger on like the hypothesis-driven research and stuff like that. And that didn't appeal to me as much as the education side because that's my strength. And so I chose the program that cared a lot more about that integration. And so my project was very integrated, very connected. Everything fed into everything else. And that was important for the program. And so that's why it was successful in that program. But if I had applied to the other one, no way. Like they would have found flaws in something, and doesn't matter how integrated because that wasn't the priority in that program. So.
I would say it will be really good to have one. You don't need to have a lot of connections feedback, but at least one. As long as you can think about one, that's sufficient.
And don't make it forced, because they can sense that. Like if you're trying to force something in, or something obvious, and I know that may not be obvious to you, but if you talk to enough people, you'll get insight and they're like, oh, well, this is pretty, like, yeah, you're going to teach the module in your class, like, yes. But what is specific to you, and like, why is this unique, I guess, and how is that connection meaningful to you, meaningful to the people that are going to be impacted?
So do you have to kind of consider like the outcome of the education plan going back as like maybe like a task or a subtask of your research methodology, proposed research methods?
I didn't. I need to be honest. I didn't. Yeah. I remember I attended a workshop from NSF about this career proposal development, and they mentioned that you need to have some sort of integration, and they give us some like a few examples of the integration. Some of them are like one way, like what I did, honestly, just for research results to be fed into the teaching or education modules. And also, of course, we are mentoring undergraduate students and graduate students. So mine, to be honest, I'm really like one way. I didn't get this loop closed. And from that, what I learned from that workshop, they said you just need to have your own way to get it integrated. I really admire the people that can get them really well integrated with everything, gets super connected. But from my area, it's really, really hard. And yeah, but I'm keep thinking. Yeah.
That's why it's program specific, because some it's natural and some it's like if you were doing it, it would be forcing it, and it doesn't fit.
So a number of you talked about connections to programs and pivots you took based on interaction. Did you guys engage it with the program director, and what made it useful or not?
Yeah. I submitted a one-pager to 2 separate program managers and got feedback from those, and then had conversations with them. So I did it before I started writing the actual thing, because I didn't want to write the whole thing and then say, no, this is not good, you know, so.
So would you say program director 100% non-optional, you gotta do it?
Yeah. In my perspective, I think it's critical.
I did not have time to reach out.
So it's not critical, clearly, you can say so.
So
I love the diversity, it's great.
I think some interaction with the program director is definitely needed, but not necessarily for this proposal. So you may have written regular proposals that you already have talked to many program directors from the same program. Then you already have known their strategy and also what their focus is on. Then you don't necessarily send them all the one page about your proposals. Then I think that's totally fine. But if this is the very first proposal that you are going to submit to that program, it definitely will be very helpful to at least reach out to them, either one pager or talk to them during a conference or whatever. Definitely, if this one, the first one, is definitely helpful to get some interaction.
Other questions from the audience? Yeah.
Yeah. My name is Tao Tianliu. I'm an assistant professor in MAE Mechanical Aerospace. Just started last August. My question a little bit specific on what I'm doing in terms of my research is more on the applied side. Most of the current funding I got is from industrial, which means it's not really that fundamental in terms of the NSF term. I know it's really program dependent and also area dependent, but any tips and suggestions on how to make one idea more fitting for the NSF requirement on this fundamental breakthrough? Well, my day-to-day research is more really on the applied side.
So I think you came a little bit.
Yes.
We were discussing about this.
Yeah.
So my research, my NSF career research was on connecting, was on innovating agriculture practices to make it more digitalized. Right? So agriculture as a field is pretty applied, and there were not much really fundamental scientific research that is being done compared to more of some of the other fields. So what I did was actually I was looking at the problem. I was boiling it down to a few tasks that I think are going to be closely related to the problem, and they're connected, right? And then I actually think out of the box and look at other fields. For example, what is being done in computer science? What is being done in applied math? And these fields, right? So they have, recent publications. They have recent works that are being related to the type of questions that you're trying to solve. And I was just basically getting inspirations and ideas from these venues. And so they are pretty fundamental if you are able to, get some ideas from these particular fields. And I think that sometimes helps.
Thank you.
We have time for one more question from the audience. Artie, we're with you.
Artie from MA. So I have a question about the facility. Specifically, I think a few of you mentioned the need for facility for validation, for essentially fit testing. Does it have to be a facility that is owned by the university, or is one of the university resources? Or can you mention, hey, I'm going to use certain access to something outside the university for validation of my work?
I think definitely. I mean, there is no restriction on what kind of facilities that you can use, as long as you know you have a letter of support. That's very important.
But it cannot be a collaborative effort.
It's an individual proposal, right? So having a letter of support will be sufficient. But I would say that, I mean, this is a big university. There are so many people working on many different things. Just try to see if you can utilize some of the university resources first. And if you don't have any options left, then look out. Because I think having connection with the university or with the state of Oklahoma, for example, will be a really strong point to the panel, because they will say, okay, your research is really addressing the utilizing the existing infrastructure, advancing it, and it's also tightly tied with Oklahoma. We are an App Score state, so sometimes when making this funding decision, this could actually be a plus point to the program manager if your research is has some kind of an Oklahoma or App Score kind of sense in it.
Thank you. All right, last question. What's one piece of advice you wish you'd followed earlier?
I should talk to you first. You should have this task-driven strategy.
No, I think if anything, not for me personally, but just don't fixate on any one piece of advice you get. You've gotten a lot of variety here, and we're all different, and we've all been successful. There's a lot of variety in unsuccessful people too, and you can learn from their stories as well. And I don't think fixating on any one thing, and there's not one path to success, there's a lot of paths. So find the one that makes sense for you, whatever it looks like.
I would go first on this one is that, you have 3 tries. Try the first time, try the second time, and believe it or not, the third time, the whole organization is helping you, the whole NSF. They are finding all kinds of reasons to try to fund you. I mean, I just attended one of the same panels on that same program. They were saying, we would rather squeeze the normal proposals to fund less so that we can fund more career proposals. And you know what? All the program manager knows that you are at the third time. So that bar, I mean, based on the review feedback, my third time, the first time review was the best, didn't get funded. Second time is not okay. Third time review was just mediocre, but it got funded because you are the third time. So make sure you try 3 times. That's all.
Yeah, I think it's more important to focus on the big idea that you want to explore within the following few years, and yeah, I think that's very important. Just it's not like we write a paper and then do the rebuttal, and we will have the same reviewer every time. The panel will change, the program director will change. Just do something that really excites you, and I think that will be something that I would like to share.
So I guess in my case, I mean, I would say start early. Start thinking about your idea way early. In fact, I would say as you got into OSU, start exploring all the people around you, building connections and talk to them, and sometimes you will have opportunities to work on things together, and just brainstorm ideas. If getting an NSF career means a lot in your community or in your field, then you should, a lot of your research activities, teaching and extension, should have some kind of a guidance or drive towards that goal. And that will change your behavior, and you will start to build all kinds of tools and connections that geared toward this goal. So I think that's gonna save a lot of time when you're actually writing the proposal, because you have done all the preliminary work beforehand.
Okay. Well, it's 10 o'clock. Let's take a minute and thank our speakers. And while you're considering submitting this semester or this year or in the following years, we have a whole crew of folks that are here to help and seek research, as folks have mentioned. Make sure you seek out Pam early and often, because she can help a lot. But we also have some panelists that you know now by face, and you kind of know they have. I think you can always reach out to them as well, and they're here to help you. So thanks a lot. Appreciate it. You guys have a great day.